Hello everyone, it's Fergus here from alexfergus.com. So today I have guest Clint Hill. So Clint is the head of strength and conditioning at Sydney's brand new strength department gym. His qualifications include Masters of Strength and Conditioning. He's a level 3 ESCO coach. He's traveled the world working with numerous professional teams, and some of his clients include Olympic rowers, professional rugby players, CrossFit competitors, and various Australian TV celebrities. So I work alongside Clint at P Department Gym in Potts Point here in Sydney, Australia. I know he's a very knowledgeable coach, very knowledgeable trainer with a ton of experience. So yeah, that's why I wanted to get him on today's call or video and pick his brain a little bit and hopefully get a few little information nuggets out of him and hear a bit more about his story and his background. So Clint, how are you?
Really well, mate. Thanks for having me on here as well. And I guess you give me a pretty solid intro there, mate. So thank you very much.
Mate, I'm just reading through your bio. I haven't done anything. You're the one with all the experiences, mate. So yeah, thank you for coming on. I know you have a really busy schedule. So in fact, I don't even know how you keep up with everything. So yeah, it's honored to have you on here. So anyway, let's just get straight into it. Firstly, how do you get into coaching? Like, what's your background? Do you have a background in sports, or how do you end up in the position you're in today?
Yeah, I guess when I was going through high school, I was a competitive rugby player, water polo, etc., as most kids are at that sort of age. But what happened to me was that I guess I started to get a few little injuries, and really found myself using the gym to get past those. And I was also lucky enough, I guess, that I got a sports scholarship to Sydney University. So that realistically started my whole career. From there, the scholarship was to do sport and rugby. So I was lucky enough that they paid for my first couple of years of uni. So that's realistically what started everything off.
Yeah, nice. So what did you study?
So that was exercise sports science.
Right.
That was at a Cumberland campus, so not main campus of Sydney Uni. It's a specialised area of Sydney University that's only for the health sciences.
Yeah, right. And then throughout that, was it at university you ended up PTing, or? Yeah.
Basically, in I guess 20 years ago when I actually started, so it was 1990, very early 1997. So yeah, like 19 and a half years ago, I guess now. What you needed for PT, or what PT was back then, was pretty much anyone who had any kind of university education was going straight into PT. Yeah. The courses were very different to what they are today. And there was very few PTs around in Sydney. So what happened was that I started working in the gym floor, and it realistically just snowballed from there.
Yeah, and when you say snowballed, I know, like as I mentioned in your bio introduction there, you have done a lot. You've worked with a lot of teams.
Yep.
I know, was it last year you went back to New Zealand and worked for the Southern Stags for a few weeks or most of the season there. So how do you go from PTing into that professional kind of sporting arena?
Yeah, I guess that's all word of mouth in a lot of ways. Usually happens for me is that as a strength and conditioning coach, the catchment of people that you have is fairly wide, and usually what occurs is I'll get a random phone call from a strength and conditioning coach that I know, or a player agent or something along those lines, asking me if I can go and fill a gap for 12 months, 6 months, whatever the case may be. And I've been lucky enough to do that on a few occasions in a couple of different countries. So yeah, things have always been pretty interesting in that regard.
Yeah, right. So that was rugby union. Do you have experience with other professional sporting code or teams and relevant codes?
Yeah, look, I guess rugby union is probably the number one as far as time-wise. I've spent probably the last 10 years in rugby. Prior to that was rugby union. But then on top of that, currently I still have a couple of Olympic rowers, doing some work at the moment with a triathlete who's an Australian triathlete but based in Germany. Right. And yeah, several CrossFitters around the world and that kind of thing. But as far as other teams are concerned, it's only been the NRL here in Australia.
So rugby league, that's cool. So I mean, look, it's a bit of a personal question here. Like you've worked with some. So obviously, I've been a PT for 5-6 years now, and similar background in terms of loving sport and just wanting to get more involved in that area. So what's it like actually working in a professional team? You've got these elite players, all the resources in the world. What's that experience like?
Yeah, look, I guess the big thing to take away from the professional teams is definitely the resources you have available to you. You have no issue when it comes to nutrition. You have no issue when it comes to how much money you can put into the gym. You have no issue with how much money you can put into your recovery, all of those kind of things. As long as you can prove to the board of directors that you're spending their money wisely, they're usually quite happy to go that way.
Right. So what was that like though? Like in terms of, why do you leave that and end up coming back to PTing? I know a lot of young PTs that dream about getting into a position like that, having, massages.
Yeah. Look, I guess for me, there's two main things that keep bringing me back. I love the diversity of being able to be a one-on-one style strength and conditioning coach and do some personal training as well with that. And when I say personal training, I use the term fairly loosely these days based on the fact that realistically, most of my clients are probably not just your generic weight loss and that kind of thing, although I definitely enjoy that as well because that gives me, a little bit of a different take on what works and why it doesn't work for those particular people. But if I had to put it down to one reason that I keep coming back to the individual stuff, I just actually love the opportunity to have different sports under my belt rather than just working with one specific team. And look, I mean, I may end up back in the world of professional sport again tomorrow or, in 2 years' time. I don't know. So it's exciting to sort of be able to get the strength department off the ground at the moment and be able to start courses that I've just written. And that way I can also sort of start to impart my knowledge onto some of the younger PTs and S&Cs in Australia.
Yeah, right. That's good. And by the way, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm 37, so yeah.
So, and you've been in the game for 20 years?
Yeah, so I moved to Sydney at 17. So, yeah. So this will be my 20th year.
I'll be one of the young guys learning off you, man.
Most people in our industry are younger than me, so I'm pretty used to that, buddy.
Good point. So you mentioned before you like the diversity, yet you're working with triathletes, CrossFitters, rugby league. Yep. Is there any sport you haven't, you'd love to get involved with in terms of coaching?
Look, I guess at the moment, I've had the opportunity to work with a couple of world champion boxers and those kind of things as well. Done a little bit on the side of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that's something that I'm quite interested in. I'm still very interested in the way the body moves. I still think about how we can be better every single day. So things like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and strangely enough, as this comes out of my mouth, things like ballet and things that are just outside of my scope of normality are probably still some of the things that I learn most off. So I guess in saying that, I would probably like to, at some point, have the opportunity to work with one of those two sports.
Right. So a little question on that. Let's say you had a child. You don't have kids, right?
No.
Okay. Just had to check. Let's say you had a child and you wanted to get them into sports, not necessarily for the competitive aspect or anything, but just like the best all-round sport. You can only choose one, maybe two sports. Like I had this conversation with a functional movement. I don't know. I forgot her title. She was like a chiropractor the other day, and I was like, what would the one sport be? Would it be something like athletics? Would it be gymnastics? Something that a child through the ages of 5 to maybe 15, in terms of long-term movement patterns and agility and strength and everything. What do you reckon the best would be?
Two sports: gymnastics and soccer. Well, football.
Really? Wow.
Now, this has come as a shock to most people because I pick on sports like soccer and cricket all the time. But the reason that I say that is the foot-eye, hand-eye connection that soccer brings is just second to none. When I watch a game of rugby league or rugby union now, I can actually tell you whether that child played soccer as a young kid. Their footwork is just much, much, much better than anyone else's because they've had to learn to balance on one foot while kicking with the other at all times.
Yeah, nice. That's interesting. That's really cool. All right. So, look, anyone that's involved in the health and fitness industry these days, whether you're a PT coach or just someone, reading magazines or flicking through websites, there's a ton of information out there. Like even myself, sometimes I just get overwhelmed with it. Every fitness guru or expert out there has their method and their beliefs, whether it's diet, supplements, training. So, I mean, look, as someone with so much experience and so much success under your belt, two questions. One, how do you keep up with all the latest and greatest, all the science and all the new protocols? And two, how do you know what's good and what's rubbish? Or do you just not care and just stick to your own things?
Okay, well, I'll start by saying one thing and then I'll elaborate off that. So the first thing is, in 1997, we were told that the leg extension was one of the greatest exercises of all time. By early 2000s, we were told never send a knee injury anywhere near the leg extension. It'll cause all kinds of issues, blah, blah, blah. And here we are in 2016, back to where we started in 1997. Now, the reason that I say that is because this whole industry is built on research and merry-go-rounds and roundabouts. Now, what I mean by that is that every year new research is coming out that will say, okay, we've done electromagnographs that will show you that there's more actual central nervous system action in the body doing a leg extension today rather than what there was 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. Now, it's just different research, different methodologies and how it's done to actually get that to happen. But in a nutshell, I just make sure that I never just focus on one type of research, because what I've realized over the years is that you have to have more than one document to prove something. Yeah. Because each different study is usually funded by a university or, for example, I guess a health food company, for example, or a major,
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? So it's, for me, I have to be able to look at a couple of different studies if I'm even going to consider that that's factual. So the two journals that I spend a lot of time looking through are the NSCA Strength and Conditioning journal, and then also the ASCA Journal of Strength and Conditioning. They're probably the two journals that I spend the most time. I also subscribe to a couple of medical journals, but again, some of those are probably, out of a 200-page journal, I probably get 2 to 3 pages of value. But again, that's something that I started in when I was at uni, and I've just kept up with those because the bits that you get out of those are absolute gold. Yeah. Then outside of actual journals, the couple of people that I hold in very high regard, the boys at Westside Barbell, Louis Simmons and those guys, I love their stuff. I love that they put in huge amounts of hours of research. They've, torn apart the Soviet methods, from the early 1800s. They've done everything possible to work out why they believe what they believe. So I like those guys. Louis pretty hard to listen to. He speaks pretty fast, and if you can pick up a little nugget here and there, you're doing quite well. Two other S&Cs that I regularly read about, Joe DeFranco is definitely on the top of my list, and another guy by the name of Mike Boyle.
Mike, who, sorry?
Mike Boyle.
Mike Boyle. I didn't do that.
So they're probably the three S&Cs that outside of Australia that I listen to a lot. But I have two very, very simple rules that I follow every single week. And that is that I speak to one strength and conditioning coach. Now, whether that's someone I know or someone I don't know, that doesn't matter. I'll just ring someone fairly randomly and just start a chat. Yeah. Because some of the best information I've ever been given is just in random chats. And like we spoke about the other day, you'd heard something that I'd said to another PT and you questioned me on it. And that's where, the start of this discussion came from. So I guess what I'm trying to say to people is just make sure that you get outside of your comfort zone a little bit, try to keep up with your research. But you do have to sift through some of the bullshit in this industry to make sure that you can find the truth. Yeah. But sorry, the second rule, I said two rules. One, make sure you talk to an S&C every week. And secondly, try and talk to someone outside of your field, whether it's a physiotherapist, a chiropractor, a naturopath, a butcher, for God's sake. Just talk to someone different about their ideas and at least just listen to why they have those ideas and how they came up with them, because those are the things that you can then go and question and think about and try and actually devise your own methodologies from that.
Yeah, nice. That's really interesting, and yeah, I agree with the whole idea of never just putting the blinkers on and just forgetting about what's going on just outside your vision. Because I think back to a lot of where I am today, and a lot of those concepts and ideas have been through books or external people, and it may have taken me 5-10 years to have that thought myself. So. Yeah. And what I'll do is I'll put a link to all these journals and notes and names in the notes. So if anyone's watching this or listening, you can have a look at the resources Clint was talking about. And it is also good to know that someone of your age and wisdom is still learning and still looking out for new ideas. So, and that's obviously a big reason why you've achieved what you have. So it's great. And you touched on this briefly before with the league extension, how, there was a time when it was frowned upon and then it was the next best thing and vice versa and stuff. There was a question I got asked once on a podcast and I've liked it, and I've decided I'm just going to ask everyone that I interview. So I know you kind of touched on it, but I'll ask it anyway. What is one belief that has changed for you over the years? Is this something you used to practice and preach and now you do the opposite? And obviously, it can be strength and conditioning related, but it may be something just more diet, lifestyle, anything.
I guess the simplest thing for me is that I used to have this very rigid belief that there was one method that worked. And I was searching for that one method, like absolutely, sifting through journals, going through medical books, anything I could to try and actually work out what that one method was. And then really smart, I finally worked out that there isn't one method that works. Because if I sat here and told you that the only way to get bigger or to lose weight or whatever it happened to be was, let's just say, doing weights, and you hated the idea of doing weights, well, then it's just not going to work. So I guess what I've learned over time is to listen to the person in front of you, find out what they want to achieve and how they want to achieve it, and then also find out what they really like. I've got a client at the moment who's a powerlifter, who is also a weight loss client. Now, she won't mind me saying that when I first started with her, she was almost 190 kilos. Now, she had been told by countless doctors, countless trainers, countless S&Cs, PTs that basically she needed to walk to lose weight because that was the first thing that she needed to do. Now, she told me that she wanted to lift and she wanted to lift heavy and she didn't care whether she lost weight. That was probably the first reason she started losing weight. Now, after a year, she's lost over 40 kilos.
Wow.
She's the happiest she's ever been. She was diabetic. She's now not.
Yeah.
Just because I actually listened to her and what she wanted to achieve. So if you start with the methodology that your client's always right, and then make sure that you explain yourself and show them as to why they need to do X, Y, and Z, I think that's probably, for me, the thing that's changed the most. I definitely, as a very early S&C, I had one or two tricks up the sleeve, and that was about all I had. Now there's a gambit of different options for me, and I try to use them all.
Yeah, right. That's great, and that's great results as well. 40 kilos.
Thanks, bro.
All right, so what else are we gonna do? So Olympic-less, something that I personally don't have that much experience with as an athlete, as a PT, as a coach. Obviously, I did a lot of powerlifting over the years and dabbled in a bit of athletics or cycling and learned some basic cleans and stuff. And even for myself, it was time consuming to learn the lifts. I never personally went overhead, like I never did snatches and that because I didn't at the time feel like I needed to. But I see you in the gym working with a lot of clients and you are doing the Olympic lifts.
Yep.
So I'm curious as to what your thoughts are with teaching them, and do you only use these with people that have high ambitious goals in terms of power production and all that, or do you believe everyone out there should?
Sure. Look, I think.
Sorry, there was a bit of a delay there. So do you think everyone should be taught them? As for me personally, I'm always concerned about the return on investment in terms of I could spend a few days teaching what I know, what little I do know, whereas I could spend that time, maybe just teaching a basic hip hinge and neutral spine and a squat or something. So, what do you think on that?
Okay, I guess there's two parts to that question, and that is, does everyone need them? Mm-hmm. The answer to that is no. B, why do I teach them? I will teach them to the people that want to learn, but also anyone that has issues or wants more power production for their sport. Now, if someone comes in randomly to learn Olympic lifting, which is happening a lot more to me at the moment due to some of the success of some of my CrossFitters, they're going back to their individual CrossFit boxes around Australia, and they're putting 20, 30 kilos on their clean or their snatch or whatever it happens to be. And they're other people in their facility are turning around and saying, "Hey, what's going on here? You've literally put 20 kilos on your PB in 2 weeks. What's that about?" So I am getting a lot more of those kind of clients in, based on them seeing the results from someone else. Mm-hmm. But as far as the return on an investment, look, it's a long process, and one of the courses that I've written is on Olympic lifting, how and why, because I don't believe they're essential for everyone, and they certainly can take a long time to master. Yeah. I talk about it all the time now. I've been doing them since I was about 14 years old, and I still would like to tweak my technique. So, and that's, hang on, 30, 20, 25 years, so for me, I think that realistically, it must be an athlete that wants to achieve those particular lifts to increase their power, but no, they're not essential for everyone to do.
Okay. It's good. I mean, that's been my sort of belief, and I thought that would be your answer as well. Something though that I know there is a lot of benefit to being able to do them, and
yeah,
we have.
Look, I guess the other part of that is, and the final statement of that is that they still do give you a huge bang for your buck. It's a full body power movement that enables your central nervous system to really, get full activation from head to toe. So there are some big benefits in that regard. If I wanted to be very strict on why I'm, suggesting them for an athlete or even just a normal client.
Cool. Just another tool in the toolbox, huh?
Absolutely, man. All
right, so another question I got for you, based on on the topic of tools and choosing the right tool for the job. If you're only allowed to prescribe 3 exercises for the rest of your coaching career, remembering that you're looking after CrossFitters, rugby players, your boxes and everything,
Yep.
What would they be and why? 3 exercises, and they don't have to be related to a barbell, dumbbell. It could be something like a chin up or
Yep.
bear crawl or something like that, or whatever.
Yep. Well, look, you've actually there's a wonderful saying from Dan Baker, who's the head of the Australian Strength and Conditioning Association, and that is if I could only use 4 exercises, they would be a chin up, a squat, a deadlift, and an incline press.
Right.
Now, for me, I guess that to answer your question in 3, I guess a push, a pull. Now, my push would probably be the overhead press. My pull would probably be the deadlift. And then I'd have to make a really, really, really big decision between my squat and a chin up. But look, they're definitely the exercises that make up the core or the foundations of most of the programs that I write.
And thoughts on the overhead press with, so many people these days having shoulder injuries and just poor postural kind of mobility and all that sort of jazz. You're not concerned about that?
Look, I don't think that I don't think it's the issue of actually having a bar overhead or having weight overhead. I think it's the issue that you haven't done the lead up work to get the bar overhead. If that means you need to correct clients' posture for 12 months before they're able to do that, well, they also have to remember it's probably taken them 20 to 30 years to get into that bad posture. So if you can correct that in 12, you're doing a pretty good job.
You're right. Yeah. No, that's good. That's a good answer. So it was the overhead press, the deadlift, and then a toss-up between the squat.
Yeah, toss a coin on that one for me, buddy.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll lead towards the squat. So.
So would I probably, to be fair.
And actually, a little side question on that: if you only allowed doing one form of squat, back squat, low bar back squat, front squat, overhead squat, goblet squat, any personal preference or favorite there?
Yeah, look, I guess I'm actually going to probably have to go with the box squat.
Yeah, right. Good.
A hard question, and if I was only allowed to use one, I realistically think it would be the box squat, just for the amount of power production that it gets, because you actually, gets a big central nervous system contraction when the butt touches the box and then being able to fire out a hole.
So a bit of clarification here, because I know there's a lot of confusion around box squats.
Yeah.
Do you define a box squat as a tap and go, like a little kiss on the box? Do you define it as like a brief pause, or do you define it as like a full rest without, relaxing the upper body?
Well, unfortunately, all 3.
Right, okay.
So each have a different purpose, and for each different individual, based on how you've assessed them, you can then work out which one of those methods is right for each individual. Right. So I guess to give a little example so that makes a little more sense, a tap and go style I would probably use for some type of let's say maybe a cyclist who needs sort of the continued muscular endurance.
Yeah.
The brief pause or momentary pause, whatever you want to call it, for any kind of normal athlete as far as track and field, maybe looking into all of your running sports, so soccer, football, etc., etc. And then the guys who do the longer pause, more your powerlifting, guys who are looking at big numbers and being able to really have to teach their body how to power out of that hole.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. The good old "it depends" answer.
Oh yeah, it always depends.
Always depends. That's good. So if there's any upcoming PTs or coaches out there listening to this, I'd like to think they're scribbling down a ton of notes and already loaded up all those journal articles and websites of the names Clint mentioned before. But I do have a question. If you could share one piece of advice to a new junior PT or someone looking to get into this industry as a coach or strength and conditioning coach, what would it be?
Listen.
Yeah.
Pretty simple, really. I think that when I got into this industry, there was probably a little bit more, sports bravado behind it. Most PTs were just coming fresh out of not being able to be an athlete. They all thought they knew better. They all thought that their way was the right way. And as I said before, I've learned over the years that there's a million different ways to get the result desired. One might take slightly longer than the other, but at the end of the day, it still gets to the same point. So if you can listen to some of the older coaches and learn why they've come up with those answers, and also, I guess, I say this to basically every PT, if you can't explain to me why a particular exercise is in a program, then it shouldn't be in the program. If you're going to write 5 sets of 5 for strength and you can't tell me why you're going to write 5 sets of 5 and your answer is going to be something along the lines of, because I read it in a textbook, I don't think you've done yourself or your client justice, and you actually should be able to tell me exactly why 5 sets of 5 is your desired method for that particular individual.
I think if you apply that rule to a majority of the trainers out there, that have pretty blank training plans.
Yeah.
It's good though. It's good. So that's a great answer. Listen, learn from those that have been before. So it's good. What do we got here? So I remember I know you work with a lot of younger trainers in the gym, and I'm sure you're doing it outside of the gym as well. I remember you speaking once to a trainer at our gym at PE department, and you were saying how every big lift you should be able to, in terms of educating it to a client, you should be able to break it down into three key rules or key components. So correct me if I'm wrong, because this was a while ago and I just overheard this sort of conversation. But you were talking about a bench press, and I walked away from the conversation. Again, I was just passing by, and I always wondered what those 3 rules would be if you were to teach someone bench press.
Look, now I'll elaborate on what that discussion was about. Mm-hmm. So I've always said that if you are explaining a particular lift to a client, you need to make sure that you've got the 3 things you want them to focus on in the best of their ability. Now, those 3 cues for every individual should be slightly different. So for a bench press, for example, once you've demonstrated the exercise and named the exercise, then you walk away from it, and when they get to do it for the first time, you want to give them the 3 cues that are going to be right for them. So, for example, if during their assessment process you found that they, let's say they hold their shoulders high in all movements. So one of their cues will be keep your shoulders down. Okay, make sure you depress and retract your scapula. Okay, but there is no right and wrong answer. But what I'm trying to get across to that PT is that you need to keep your cues simple, focused, and ensure that you haven't gone into massive amounts of detail. Because if you walk up to the bench press and say, okay, we're going to do a bench press, you jump on, demonstrate it, and then you go, okay, so I want you to put your left foot there, your right foot there, I want your bottom on the back on the bench, your shoulders down, hands here and here on the bar. By then, you've already forgotten the major points. Okay, so keep it simple. Doesn't matter what the actual cues are, but they just need to be correct for that client.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know even myself sometimes, like when I'm in the gym working with a new client, like something like a bench press or a squat, something I've been doing for 8-9 years, and I've been in the gym teaching this to many people, and you sometimes forget that there are people out there that are literally at day one, and I think that's important as a coach, as a trainer, to always remember, look, they might not have the background or the knowledge or the experience. So that's good. That's a good answer. I like that, and I might even look at working it into my own coaching and PTing. So someone who's been so involved in the strength and conditioning industry, or the PT industry, I don't really know what you call it these days, the fitness industry, the health industry.
Nor do I. Just run with it, mate.
So what do you see as the next big thing? We mentioned before about up-and-coming training programs and the revolutionary products and exercise and things like CrossFit, and how that's kind of changed the training world and all that. Do you see any big changes on the horizon, or upcoming protocols or techniques or anything like that?
Yeah, look, I guess the importance of mobility is the thing that I still see sneaking into gyms that I wouldn't have seen 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. With CrossFit really came some pretty serious movement protocols, I guess, mobility style workouts. One of the biggest selling websites at the moment is Mobility Ward, which is basically you subscribe to a mobility exercise routine per day. Mm-hmm. Now, whilst that's not individualized and not, in my opinion, not 100%, it's certainly better than doing nothing. And it's going to improve you far more than just jumping in the gym and doing a couple of goblet squats to warm up and calling it a day. So things like that are pretty impressive. And also, I guess, I think for me, you can really see things like that and ART, or active release technique, really stepping into just your average normal gym, whether it's a 24-hour facility or a fitness first or whatever it happens to be. Trainers are really trying to educate themselves in those areas because they can see the benefits of what's actually able to occur with increased mobility.
Right. So your thoughts on mobility, like let's say you've got a client, 30, 40 years, corporate guy, a bit of a sporting background, weekend warrior type guy. Let's say he was coming to you 3 times a week to do some training.
Yep.
And he was going to do, 4 sessions in total in the gym, 4 hours a week, a couple with you, 1 or 2 on his own.
Yep, sure.
How much mobility work would you prescribe him? And again, I know it depends answer, but just your typical guy with, who's sitting 6-8 hours a day and getting out on the weekend, has a few issues and stuff. Like, based on your experiences, how much does the average guy need?
Look, I think that ideally, I would set probably 10 to 15 minutes of mobility work for 90% of the people that I train, regardless of whether they're training once a week, 10 times a week. Mm-hmm. Pre-session, I still believe that there should be a series of warm-up / activation / mobility style exercises to make sure they're primed and ready for the day, or alternatively, switched off from their day job and actually thinking about what they're about to do when they're about to put a 100-kilo squat on their back.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. That's good. All right, so we're coming up to the end of the call. I do want to know, well, I do know that you have some exciting things in the works. So we mentioned in the introduction that you're the head coach of strength department here in Sydney. So if anyone was out there Googling it, depending on when this gets released, it may not even be present on the internet yet. So Strengthless, tell me a bit more about it. When's it going live? What is it, obviously? How can people find out more about it, and what's your involvement?
Sure. Okay, so the strength department is a little pet project, I guess. It's within our gym. Basically, what's occurring in the gym currently is that we've been lucky enough to take over a new space, and that's going to be called the yoga department. So in the classroom style environment in the back of our gym, I've got the opportunity to open a new strength and conditioning / I guess small group training facility, which I'm the head coach for. There'll be a series of other coaches through there, but it also gives me the opportunity to run my courses out of there, which again, dates will be released as soon as everything's finalised with all of the equipment for the strength department. We are hoping to launch on the 1st of April, so not far away now, I guess. But in a nutshell, that is, it's a facility that will cater for strength and conditioning, CrossFit, and also small group training. People who want to learn new things, new movement patterns, and just in a I guess a smaller group environment to make sure that it becomes a little more affordable, and also for them a little more one-on-one style coaching.
All right, that sounds great. So that's in Potts Point in the Peter Department gym for here in Australia, for those people that aren't aware of Peter Department or haven't been there before, which again is an amazing gym. So look, that could be someone who wants to know a little bit more about the big lifts, but doesn't necessarily want a one-on-one PT, or whether they can't afford it, or they prefer being in a small group sort of world. But it's not like 30 people in a class. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. It'll definitely be. I mean, the biggest class we're sort of looking to run would be sort of around the 10 to 12 mark. Yeah,
right. Cool. And you mentioned you're obviously the head coach, but you'll be taking classes and
yep.
Right. So
yeah, and all of the coaches will be qualified strength and conditioning coaches, and a couple of them also have level 1 and level 2 CrossFit as well.
Cool. And will there be? I know right now, again, it hasn't launched yet, but will you have a website set up for this if people want to find out more? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a link on the PE department website to our Facebook page to start with. Yep. But there will be also a direct strength department website, which is www.strengthdepartment, DEPT, not department as one word, .com.au, which no doubt you can add to the links for this for me now. So yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll be sure to put links to all these websites and resources. So that's good. So yeah, for anyone listening out there that does want to learn from the best and work with the best, and whether they can't afford it, one-on-one sessions, or I said at the start how busy Clint is, so I'm sure availability can be a limiting factor as well. So now you'll be able to learn from this wise old man. And no, I think it's good. I think I'm looking forward to seeing what you do come out with, and I'll be sure to get in there myself to learn a few of these things. All right, so a final question before we close up.
Yep.
For anyone that's followed me over the last few months and years, or is on my newsletter, they'll know that I do a lot of reading. I usually try to read a book a week. I don't always hit it, but that's the goal. So I always have to ask, I've got a reading list of 500 something books. I won't take 10 or 11 years to get through them at the rate I'm going, but I'm always on the lookout for top books. So 2 questions: favorite book, whether it's non-fiction or fiction, and also what are you reading at the moment?
Okay, so at the moment I'm reading, I just bought Louis Simmons' ebook from Westside Barbell, his Olympic Strength Manual, which was released, I think, last Monday or Tuesday from Columbus, Ohio, where their facility is. I've been waiting for that to come out for a couple of months, so I was pretty excited when it did. I'm probably a little bit different in the reading department to a lot of people. I try to read and then reread the same book, because one of the things that I've found over the years is that I retain information very well, but I always miss something because I'm concentrating on something else too much. So, for example, one of the things that early in Louis' book, the newest ebook that I'm reading, one of the things he talks about is he goes back to some of Dr. Mel Siff's work in super training. And of course, that then launched me to going and running into my study and grabbing hold of Mel Siff's super training and starting to read that again. And sat there and like, hang on a sec, I'm supposed to be reading Louis' ebook. I better go back to that. But so I've now got super training sitting next to me again to go through that. But I guess what I'm trying to say from that is that just remember to take some notes every time you do read a book. It doesn't matter whether it's one note that might be something that you want to check up on. But for me, there's just that added little bit that you get out of reading a book the second time. So that's my method.
Yeah.
And then I guess aside from that, I have to be a little bit of a tragic here and tell you that still to this day, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding is still up there as one of my absolute favorite books, because I think that some of the things that Arnold did were probably revolutionized the way we think, definitely the way we train, definitely the volumes in which the human body was able to take.
Yeah.
And also the guy had a personality. So, you know, I think that that's something that's certainly lacking in our industry at times too.
Yeah, right. I honestly thought for a second there you were going to say something like the Harry Potter series.
No, that won't be happening, my friend. That won't be happening.
No, it is a good book. I've got it sitting here on my bookshelf. And actually, when you're talking about, you know, going back to books and stuff, it's something I agree 100% with. I don't, you know, have a Kindle or I have one, but I very rarely use it. I always prefer the paperback. And even if I buy a Kindle book, 9 times out of 10, if it's decent, I'll buy the physical book as well. And yeah, if you look at the books I read, like I've dog-eared all the corners. I always have a pen with me. I'll go to the park and I'll carry a pen because I'm always taking notes and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I agree. Like you go into a book with a certain perspective, or you know, maybe the title or what someone told you about the book, you're looking for that to reinforce, you know, your beliefs. And then maybe a few years later you read it again, and whether you've learned something or that mindset has changed, then you get so much more from it. So it was Ty Lopez. He's blown up the last few years in terms of YouTube fame and all that jazz. But he say like he's all about reading like a book a day sort of thing. And he says how books should be regarded as friends. You know, you put them on the bookshelf and you refer back to them when you need it, whether, you know, it's a resource, but sometimes you just want a story and, you know, emotions and all that sort of things. Like, and yeah, when I heard that from him, which was a couple of years ago, it always kind of resonated with me. So that's good. That's a great answer. And those books, I'll be sure to put links in the show notes so everyone can check them out. Well, I think that is everything. That was everything. Yeah, it's been a great conversation. I hope anyone listening has learned a thing or three. And yeah, the strength department, I'm sure that's gonna be exciting. I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm sure you'll do wonders in there. So happy to see what plays out there. But before we close up, we mentioned strength department website, but what about yourself? Like if people want to contact you, do you have a personal website or a Facebook page or anything like that you want to plug?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm still happiest with the good old email, which is now at strengthdepartment.com.au.
Sorry, what was that? It just cut out on you.
Sorry, Clint at strengthdepartment.com.au.
Right.
Because for me, again, you know, I want to see that why someone wants to contact me. So I guess I probably want a little bit more information than most people when it comes down to it. So look, happy for people to go on my Facebook page, which is obviously also the Strength Department. They can also follow me on Twitter, Clint_Hill Strength, or on Instagram, which is also Clint_Hill Strength. or also there's the strength department Instagram as well. So there's plenty of ways to find me and follow me and learn a little bit about what I think and why I think that way. Feel free to ask questions, but certainly I love the good old-fashioned email so that I can get back to people once I've had the opportunity to digest their questions and really think about what they're asking and why.
Yeah, right. Okay, cool. Well, I'll make sure I put all those links in the notes as well. So otherwise, yeah, if any of you guys are ever in Sydney, be sure to pop into the strength department, and you'll see Clint walking around with the iPad and a bottle of water, no doubt. He'll be the guy showing how to do a clean or a squat. Yeah, if you guys have questions, either for myself or Clint, put them in the question box, whether this is on my website or on YouTube. If you like this, make sure you hit the like button or give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down and let me know why so I can improve and get better. And yeah, don't be afraid to reach out to Clint. I'm sure he'll be able to help you out no matter where you are in the world. So don't feel like you have to be in Sydney to work with him. And yeah, until next time, thank you again, Clint. It's been great. I've learned a lot, and I hope everyone listening has learned a lot. And yeah, I'll see you in the gym.
Thanks, Al. Thanks for your time, mate. Thank you.
No problem.